Hello guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in our Python for Artificial Intelligence series, today we'll be looking at variables. So I already have my VS Code open, as well as command prompt where we'll be testing, where we'll be running our code to test, open in the right folders. So to start, we are going to create a file in this Python folder. So we are going to create a file. We'll call it variables.py. So Python files end with py. So by the way, to start, what are variables? So in simple terms, variables are means by which we store values. There are means by which we store values. These values can be a number, maybe someone's age, a name, a string. It can be many different things. But in simple terms, variables are means by which we store numbers. And how do we create these variables? In other programming languages, creating variables often involve things like using some keywords, var, let, and things like that. But in Python, creating a variable is as easy as just giving a name. For example, if we wanted to store someone's age, we'll just say age equals to 23. And these variables need to be like descriptive. The variable names, they need to be descriptive, because most of the times in tech we work in teams. Like a team member needs to be able to look at the variable name and know what you were trying to do. So they need to be descriptive. So creating a variable is as easy as just giving a name equal to and then the value. And there are certain rules that we need to follow when creating these variables. So some of these rules are: variables can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. Variables can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. And the variable names can only start with a letter, like we are already seeing with age, as well as it can also start with underscores. So we can also have something like name assigned to, let's say, Mark. This is also valid. But trying to do something like, let's say, starting with a name, let's say date of birth. You see it's red. It's already indicating that is not valid, because we are trying to start with a number. So these are rules. This is one of the rules that we need to always respect when creating variables. They cannot start with a number, but they can start with a letter as well as underscores. Then between, like, most of the times when creating variable names, since they need to be descriptive, we like, for example, I just created date of birth. Let's say if we're creating date of birth as a variable, just so that it is descriptive. Now doing it this way is valid. Is valid. But if, like, it's like another rule is we cannot have spaces between variable names. So we cannot have something like this. This is not valid. So if we giving variable names need to be descriptive. If we feel we want to give a variable name that will take many different words, then we use underscores to join the words like this. So that's another rule when creating variable when giving variable names. Then another rule is we cannot use Python keywords. There are certain words that are reserved. There are certain words that are reserved keywords in Python. So we cannot use those words. For example, you cannot give a variable name if, let's say, something. We cannot give this, because if is a reserved word in Python. So this again is not valid. You see, it's already indicating. So we cannot use Python reserved Python keywords as variable names. Then we also, the variable names need, I already mentioned the fact that variable names need to be descriptive. Then another rule is, given in Python we don't have constants, so like giving variable names, it is our variable names are supposed to be in small letters. This is because by convention using capital letters for variable names indicates that the variable name is a constant. So our variable names need to be in small letters, like you see in the different cases I've used here. So this is how we create variables. Now, for what the variables holds, whether numbers, strings, and other things, we'll look at all that later. But for now, this is what it takes to create a variable. And we can also create many variables. We can also create and assign many variables to many values at the same time. So we can do something like, we can say x, y, z equals to 1, 2, 3, and this is valid. This is valid. So if we were to try to, so like I said, variables are ways by which we store values. So if we were now trying to use these values somewhere else, let's say, like in this case, we'll just print them, but in a real working application, this might involve using them to maybe run through a function or do certain do things. So but in this case, if we're now like we are able to call these variables with these variable names, and they give us the values they hold, or they're storing. So you can say print h print underscore name. We can also say print date of birth, and we can also say print x, print y. So after doing this, we save it and run it. And running Python is just like we do Python and variables dot py, and we are able to get, so by calling the variable names, we get the value they hold. So you see we call age, we call underscore name, we call date of birth, we call x, y, and we're able to get the values that they hold. So these are variables. These are variables.